I don't want like anyone to feel like singled out because of this, because don't worry you guys, there's so many of you guys that are like assumers. They're very assuming. There should be like a club for you guys or something, I don't know, but some assumptions are pretty fair to make, right? You're like, I can see why they made that mistake, but some are just like, what the dude, like why are you even thinking about that? And what makes you think like it's okay to say that out loud? Like, I don't know, it's just so weird. People are weird. As another example, like people also don't know who people are. That's the thing. Like they really we say these types of things so often, we abuse these words so often, that it's almost like, you know, they lose meaning. And so when somebody really has the right to say these words, everyone's like, oh, scoff, like whatever. We don't know like we know who you are. But like, wow, you know how many times, wow, I had to listen to somebody's be like, you don't know who I am, you don't know somebody that if you really don't know who they are, and they actually matter, guess what? They're not going to tell you that. It's not an attribute of someone to say that of themselves. It's not normal. Maybe somebody else might say, do you know who they are? But people aren't going to say that of themselves. It's just, imagine that. It's weird, right? Okay. Anyways, let me stay on topic. So this happened in Genesis 29 when Jacob wept and kissed Rachel. I was like, I had read out of the Niv version, it'll say he wept, right? And so, but if you look up cried, it won't pop up. So I read a different version where it said he cried, and they, something about them, I think it was in the Midrash, where they mentioned something about people looking at them and just like, oh, like judging Jacob because they're like, oh, these people came here to show us this strange way of like their weird ways, because they knew that Rachel was his cousin, I guess. The people that were at the well, they knew this of Jacob. But according to the rabbis, Jacob had a vision when he kissed her. And I mean, this makes sense. When Jesus came and healed people, he touched them. That's how he healed them. When the disciples went out to heal people, they were speaking all these different languages. They were doing all these, like nothing would work. And then they touched them and then they were healed. And so it made sense that when he kissed her, he saw this about her, and he cried because he saw her death, that he saw that he would bury her. It makes sense to me now, because before I was like, why did he go through it like so? Like, he already knew what was going to happen, so that's why he was able to take it. It didn't come as a shock. It didn't like stop him from what was going on at the time, which he was trying to run. It just fits together perfectly. But this story is also telling a story of the people and how like where the minds are at of these people that are just kind of like observers, onlookers, but aren't really part of the story, and so it makes sense that they're confused all the time, right? Some people are like straight when it comes to this stuff. I don't know why. It's like you have to be. No, you have to be. You cannot fake this because you can't help it. And what does that tell you? That tells you that the people that are sitting there trying to make a joke out of something so serious are just oblivious to it. They may have an idea, but they're just oblivious to the actual feeling of it. Because it would naturally it would show, and it would be inevitable. It would be impossible to not show it. Improbable. Highly improbable. I need to stop using the word impossible. It's not a word. But like you'll see this, it was kind of hard to think of an example, but you'll see this in people that are like, they can't help but smile or stop laughing when they see something beautiful, like a baby just being born, or like their giggles. I don't know how to explain it, but these things that are like overwhelmingly beautiful, you can't help but be overwhelmed by these things when you see also the misery that it is in mankind, right? Because at that point you understand what that baby is going to end up going through.
So I've heard people say before, like, okay, I took this relationships class once and it stuck with me, and somebody worded it perfectly. The teacher had brought up something about children and how, like, faith and loyalty, and even and somebody had said, well, I think it's messed up to bring a baby into this world. And do you guys remember when Drake had his kid, and everyone was like, oh, he's hiding him, he's hiding him? Like, I would, like, that, again, great example. Like, how, what type of mind, what type of ignorance do you have to be in to think that someone like Drake would have to hide something, right? But that just tells you, again, the misery that these people are going through. That just tells you it's amazing that people don't see it. And then Drake, even Aubrey Graham, whatever, he even went and responded to this and said, I wasn't hiding my baby from the world, I was hiding the world from my baby. I was like, that's real. How do you not know these things? How do people not just assume these things, but they're so ready and willing to assume something else? It's insane to me. And so for those of us that are still following, I know it's hard to make sense of all this stuff, guys, but hopefully we can try to explain to people that we meet now that we're not just standoffish, and that we're not just like stuck up or not wanting to talk to them, but they're confusing as people, as just in general, they're very confusing to us. Just as we might be confusing to them, it's not being done on purpose by anybody.